DA leader Mmusi Maimane is expected to address the media at 1 p.m. at Nkululeko House in Johannesburg. The party's Federal Executive Committee is meeting following the weekend election of Helen Zille as Federal Council Chair, which led to the resignation of Johannesburg Mayor Herman Mashaba. While the spotlight is on Mashaba, there is speculation that Maimane's future will also be discussed. Maimane was present at Mashaba's resignation briefing, where the outgoing mayor slammed the DA, accusing it of having been taken over by right-wing elements. Well, for more on this story, we cross to our reporter Natasha Phiri. Natasha, I'm sure you're eagerly waiting to see what comes out of that 1 o'clock briefing. What do we think Mmusi Maimane is going to say?
On the agenda. Definitely, Nompo, and of course to our viewers, journalists are actually, anticipating that 1 o'clock. So the countdown has officially begun to that much anticipated and much awaited briefing at 1 o'clock. What I can tell you and what it has been happening, as early as 9 o'clock when we were here this morning, we saw various leaders of the DA come in. We also saw Mmusi Maimane come in dressed in all black. And now, Nompo, black is associated with mourning. I think for Mmusi Maimane, he's been under dark cloud for such a long time, and him wearing black, all black, is quite significant to. We were told that him and the Federal Council chairperson had a meeting earlier on today. That will be Helen Zille, and of course FedEx is actually underway. And of course you know that Nompu FedEx will be discussing, or is actually currently discussing, the issue of Herman Mashaba's departure, and of course the coalition government as well, in the city of Johannesburg. And also it will, or is rather, discussing the organizational review report, which was actually leaked over the weekend. And just to remind you and the viewers what that report says, more especially in regards to Mmusi Maimane, it had recommended that he stepped down as party leader. Earlier in the morning, I'd reiterated the points that James Self had stepped down as FedCo chairperson. We also saw Paul Bawi stepping down. Now, the only person whose future actually hangs in the balance here is Mmusi Maimane. Speculation, I beg your pardon, is rife that he might be stepping down. Those close around him have said that they think that he actually will be stepping down as party leader. But it's quite interesting because before, in previous interviews, Mmusi Maimane had said that he's going nowhere. Yesterday, just talking to the former DA Federal Council Chair, Mr. Gibson, he had said that Mmusi Maimane elected by Congress, so he says that he thinks he's going nowhere. But of course, you know that the Congress has been moved to next year in 2020, so it should be interesting. If Mmusi Maimane steps down, then we'll see the likes of Ethel Trollop actually take over his place until next year, and until a new leader is actually elected into power. But in terms of the bigger picture and the bigger question we see here, it seems as if the DA is in a split into two, the split of the old guard, which is the classical liberals, versus the new guards, which of course is the progressive liberals. So quite an interesting time for the opposition party. What is the way forward in terms of, speaking of Herman Mashaba and him stepping down? The coalition government also in the city of Johannesburg comes under the spotlight. We heard that the EFF saying that there will be internal discussions and consultations. We heard the ANC saying, the regional ANC saying that they will be discussing with the provincial structures of the ANC in Gauteng. Internal process has to then take place, and of course they will be reaching out to other smaller political parties like your Aljamas, your IFPs in the city of Johannesburg, and then further consultations can actually take place. But it quite is an interesting time for the Democratic Alliance, but also speaks to 2021 is not far, Nompu. What will this translate for the voters? We heard there those scathing comments of Herman Mashaba on Monday, saying that he refuses to reconcile himself with people who'd rather prioritize cutting grass than fixing old age infrastructure. He himself had said that ever since he actually assumed his office as mayor, the whole idea of coalition government has been undermined by the DA, and he had said that the DA was the worst coalition partner, Nompu. So it begs a bigger question: what will actually happen from now? Will the EFF actually agree to continue being in a coalition government with the DA? What will happen? Will we see the ANC actually come out on top? it's quite interesting times.
Yeah. Natasha, let me come in there. I mean, in terms of Herman Mashaba's future, he's obviously decided to completely leave the DA. What is it about his future that they're discussing? Are they thinking about making him withdraw as the mayor of Johannesburg in the interim? And if that does happen, we're going to have a leadership vacuum in the city.
Definitely, Nompu. That could be actually a topic of discussion because, I mean, according to some DA insiders, they weren't happy with that announcement. Some actually thinking that and saying that Mashaba should actually vacate his office immediately. And like you correctly cite, that it would have to mean that, his position will be vacant. The city of Johannesburg won't have any leadership. So I think these are some of the things that they actually need to deal with as a party, but also bring you back to, the recommendations of the organizational report in terms of, the coalition government. It's quite interesting, quite surprising to note that the DA had said that, while appreciating the complexity and difficulty of the decision at the time, our views that the forming governments with the EFF was a mistake. And I mean, this is a huge blow for, a government or for a party who was actually in coalition with the EFF. I mean, what are you saying to the opposition? So quite an interesting argument, quite interesting times, Nompu. How does the DA then move on from now? I mean, it was dealt with quite a blow, pending Mashaba's departure. So these are just some of the things that we expect FedEx to actually, deliberate on and talk on. And of course, will let us know in due time. But of course, that big announcement that we're waiting for at 1 o'clock, does this mean or does this mark the end for Mmusi Maimane? I guess, all of us media houses and of course South Africans will just have to wait and see for 1 o'clock, Nompu.
Indeed. Let me still come in there, Natasha. Obviously, we're going to be in the realm of speculation until Mmusi Maimane makes his utterances after 1 o'clock. But if he does step down, I mean, who are the likely candidates to take over? And, if it is a white face, to be very direct, because one of the issues that Herman Mashaba did raise is that the party seems to avoid the issue of race, and the race is an important part of the debate. What does that then mean for the future of the DA?
Definitely, Nompu. If he is likely to step down, we are likely to see the federal chairperson, Ethel Chollop, actually take over from his position until, Congress, the elective Congress that will take place next year in 2020. But actually speaking about the question of transformation within the party, we spoke to several analysts, and they've been saying that, I mean, there's this perception around Helen Zille that, she can't let black leaders actually lead the DA. I mean, we've seen it with the likes of Lindiwe Mazibuko leaving, Patricia de Lille. We've seen now lately Herman Mashaba. So there is this perception that there's a problem in the DA around its transformation agenda. And this is something they actually have to deal with, more especially when it translates to black voters, to actually keep them in the party. But I mean, some analysts say if this trajectory actually continues, Nompu, then it actually will cost them more black voters. I mean, they've been dealt a blow at the May 8 elections earlier on this year. They've been also dealt a blow at the by-elections also this year. So if this, trajectory actually continues this way, it actually could mean a decline of voters from the DA. I mean, as of now, the future of the Johannesburg Metro actually hangs in the balance for the DA. Will the DA keep it or not? I think it remains to be seen.
All right, Natasha, thanks very much for that update. My colleague there, Natasha Phiri.